Hi, everybody. Matt Bernier, joined by Woodbine analyst Jeff Bratt, taking a look at the Saturday Woodbine play of the day, taking a look at the eighth race, some stakes action for 2-year-olds, mile and 16th on the main track. It is the Kingarvie. It's only a field of 6 in here, Jeff. There's 2 horses, though, that on the morning line, they are pretty considerable favorites. The 2, Silent Mistake, the second choice at 2-1. The 3, My Silencer, is the favorite on the morning line at odds of 7-5. Let's start with My Silencer. You and I spoke a little bit before we kicked this thing off, talking about boy, the career debut, really kind of hard to knock that. 7/8 of a mile, first time out, goes out there at 16-1 and gets the job done by open lengths. Overall, what are your thoughts about that race and the sort of possibility of this horse stretching out to 2 turns and facing winners for the second time?
Could not have been more impressive first time out too, Matt. It was a Wednesday night. It was a big field. It was a stake race. You're totally ignored on the tote board. And not only do you win big. And did everything right. I had a chance to catch up with the connections after the race. And I just marked with them at how impressive I was with the fact this horse was so professional first time out. And it's come back to work very, very quickly. Now, the obvious question is, can the horse get 2 turns? I mean, pedigree-wise, you see Silent Name on the top side, and the bottom side, the mare, she was able to have success going around 2 turns. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. What kind of worries me a little bit in this race is, are there a lot of forwardly placed horses in this race? Is there going to be a lot of speed? Because some of these horses, in fact, all of them are going around 2 turns for the first time, with the exception of the inside runner. My Silencer could be any type, but I wasn't there for the 16-1 party. I don't want to be there at 6-5.
Yeah, then really, that's always something that you've got to factor in. The other thing that I find interesting about My Silencer, highest buyer in the field last out with a 72. Yeah. But from a time form standpoint, this horse is actually middle of the pack as far as their figures are concerned. So that's always a bit of a conundrum from a handicapper's standpoint. How about the number 2, Silent Mistake, going out for Norm McKnight? Each of the past 2 starts, a couple of victories. One of them was in a stakes race, 2 starts back. She's a filly taking on the boys. Another one that she figures to be forwardly placed. Do you think if there's a scenario where she is forced to rate, she can do so successfully?
That's a great question, because at this point, she has been very much on the front end when she's been at her best. Having said that, when she debuted in a stake race as well. She had post 14, and she was able to sit just off of it a little bit. So I think she can rate. And I was actually looking up her pedigree, too. She's got a very interesting one. The Dams produced Nick the Conqueror, who is like a marathoner, and all of a sudden she produces this 6-furlong horse. So the barn's got great stats going from a sprint to a route. Has been working very quickly, gets a weight allowance because of the sex. I really think that Silent Mistake is the horse to beat in this race. I've put the horse, having said that, I put the horse 4th because I'm trying to be a little bit sneaky in this race. But I think Silent Mistake is, with that resume, is the horse to beat coming up on Saturday.
Before we get to the horse you had mentioned also that a little bit of a sneaky horse that you're mildly intrigued with is the 5, Blessed 2. Tell us about this one.
I don't know if I'm being fooled into this guy. Like, is he an off-the-pace sprinter that maybe is just a little bit slow, or is he just saying, I want to go around 2 turns. This is what I want to do. His pedigree says for sure sprints, but the way he runs, he says I want to go 2 turns in here. He was able to have success 3 starts ago, albeit in a slowly run stake race. Obviously, Boulanger sticks with Silent Mistake, who's on a real roll right now. I didn't have the courage to pick Blessed 2, and I might regret that, but the pedigree's got me a little bit leery, but his running style suggests to me that he'll be okay going around 2 turns.
Well, let's get to the horses that we like, because neither of us are going with the favorites. We're not going to go with Blessed 2. We're going to go with the 4 and the 6. Let's start off with Dundrum. This is a horse most recently no match for My Silencer. Do you think the difference here could potentially be stretching out to 2 turns?
Dan was able to have success going around 2 turns, so I like that. Bold and Flash is more of a sprint sire, but the Dam has produced Drumcliff that's been able to go around 2 turns. The reason why I landed on him is I know he can relax. I've seen it in sprints, so he'll be able to relax going around 2 turns. And sometimes I find with 2-year races, as you know, Matt, you get horses going around that clubhouse turn for the first time, and they're a little bit keen. They're not exactly sure what's going on, and they grab the bit, and all of a sudden you have a real speed duel on your hands. So I wanted to go towards a horse that I think is going to stalk at a decent price. So that's why I did land on Dundrum. But I think this is a highly competitive race.
So, and the way that I kind of looked at it, I can understand anyone that looks at it and says the 2, Silent Mistake, has speed. The 3, My Silencer, has speed. Why on earth would you like a horse like Victor's Dynasty on the far outside, who's also going to play into that? There's just a part of me that looks at Victor's Dynasty and says, okay, the career debut, nothing to write home about. You see, ran into Dundrum, was no match for that horse that day, but came back in the second lifetime start, Lasix on for the first time. And just showed very easy speed. I liked everything about that, and I recognize it was a bit of a merry-go-round. There wasn't much running from behind. You always have to be a little bit leery of those races. But The gallop out combined with the fact that you look at Victor's Cry, the sire for this horse,
Yeah.
with the first time starters that are 2-year-olds, they're 1 for 49. So this horse had every right to take a step forward in the second start. But more importantly, from a pace dynamic standpoint, I do wonder if everyone else is going to look at it and say, if Victor's Dynasty wants to go, let him go, because he may not be able to see out this 2-turn distance. And we've seen many, many times in the past. You're right. You brought up that clubhouse turn for the first time for some of these stretch outs. They can kind of lose their mind. And next thing you know, they're going 46 to the half mile. If that happens, well, this horse is in trouble. But there's a part of me that wonders if they're going to let a horse like this go. And if you're Silent Mistake or you're My Silencer, you say, oh, you know what? He's going to come back to us at some point. And you know what? Sometimes they don't stop. At 12-1, I'll take a chance here. Your overall thoughts on Victor's Dynasty?
Yeah, well, the sire is stamina all day long. He's not great first time out by any means. He's a lot better second time out and going along as well. He added Lasix, and like you said, it was a race in which it wasn't overly taxing, which I like. And this barn is probably one of the up-and-coming barns at Woodbine, Tony Galilero's outfits. So at a big number, I'm not going to talk you off that one. I mean, the only one we haven't touched on is Pay for Peace, who's the only horse that's had success going around 2 turns. So I just think it's that type of race, and we're trying to find a little bit of value in this event.
And look, the last horse that we touch on, like you say, we hadn't brought up Pay for Peace. That basically means put a circle around it. Who's going to end up being the winner. So Jeff and I, neither of us are going to go with the favorites in here. We respect My Silencer. We respect Silent Mistake. Jeff's going to go with the number 4, Dundrum. I'm going to go with the number 6, Victor's Dynasty. Hopefully we can get something going here with some nice prices here in the 8th race at Woodbine on Saturday, the Saturday Woodbine Play of the Day, the $100,000 Kingarvie Stakes. Schedule post time for the 8th at Woodbine on Saturday, 4:38 Eastern. Best of luck.